Sometimes the worst decisions begin with a girl saying yes because she can't afford to say no. The text message came at 6:14 p.m. while I was wiping down piano keys in a midtown hotel lounge that smelled like old money and expensive whiskey. One night, $5,000. Pretend to be someone's wife. I stared at the screen so long the letters started to blur together. $5,000 was 3 months of rent. $5,000 meant my younger sister wouldn't have to sleep in her car after the eviction notice became real tomorrow morning. Outside the hotel windows, Manhattan drowned beneath cold November rain. Yellow taxi lights smeared across the wet streets like watercolor paint. My fingertips ached from playing background music for rich strangers who never looked at me long enough to remember my face. Claire, my manager, snapped from behind the bar. "You gonna daydream all night or finish your set?" I forced a smile and slid back onto the piano bench. My black dress suddenly felt too tight around my ribs. The message still glowed on my phone beside the sheet music. One night. Fake wife. Cash up front. I should have deleted it immediately. Girls like me were supposed to know better. But girls like me also weren't supposed to choose between groceries and electricity at 27 years old. By 8:40 p.m., I was standing outside the Valmont Tower on East 61st Street while rain soaked through my coat sleeves. The building rose into the clouds like something built for kings instead of ordinary people. Black SUVs lined the curb. Men in dark suits stood beneath the awning with earpieces hidden under their collars. Nobody smiled. Nobody looked relaxed. A blonde woman opened the lobby door before I could lose my nerve. "Claire Bennett?" she asked. I nodded carefully. She looked me over once, assessing, calculating. "You're prettier than the photos." Something about that made my stomach tighten. "I still don't understand why he needs a fake wife." The woman pressed the elevator button. "You don't need to understand. You only need to survive tonight." The elevator climbed silently. My reflection trembled in the mirrored walls. Blonde hair pinned too quickly, nervous blue eyes, cheap heels pretending to belong in a building where every light fixture probably cost more than my student loans. The woman handed me a velvet box before the doors opened, put it on. Inside sat a diamond ring large enough to make my hand look borrowed. "This feels insane," I whispered. "It is." The penthouse doors slid apart, and suddenly every sound disappeared from my body. The room beyond looked less like an apartment and more like a private kingdom carved out above Manhattan. Floor-to-ceiling windows, gold light, marble floors reflecting the storm outside. Men in tailored black suits speaking quietly into phones. Women in silk dresses pretending not to notice the tension hanging in the air. Then I saw him. Damien Moretti stood near the windows with one hand in his pocket and the other wrapped around a crystal whiskey glass. Tall, broad shoulders beneath a charcoal suit cut perfectly against his body. Dark hair swept back neatly. Pale gray eyes colder than the rain outside. He wasn't the loudest man in the room. That was the terrifying part. Nobody needed to announce his importance. The entire room adjusted itself around him naturally. Conversation softened when he moved. Men stepped aside without being asked. Even the air felt heavier near him. The blonde woman leaned toward me. "Your husband just arrived." My pulse stumbled. Damien turned slowly. Those gray eyes landed on me like a hand around my throat. Not violent. Worse. Focused. Like he had already decided something about me before I even spoke. He crossed the room with calm, measured steps that made every security guard subtly straighten. Up close, he smelled like cedarwood, rain, and expensive cologne. His jaw carried the faint shadow of exhaustion beneath the perfect. "Claire Bennett," he said quietly. His voice was deep enough to settle directly into my chest. "You came." I swallowed hard. Apparently I did. For 1 second, something almost dangerous flickered behind his eyes. Amusement, maybe. Or approval. Then his attention dropped to my bare left hand. "The ring," he said softly. "Put it on." My fingers trembled as I slid the diamond onto my hand. The stone caught the chandelier light instantly. Too bright. Too real. Damien watched the ring settle against my skin without blinking. The room around us faded into distant noise. Rain tapped softly against the glass walls above Manhattan. Somewhere behind him, a man answered a phone in rushed Italian, but Damien only looked at me, at the ring, at the space beside him like he was already imagining me there permanently. Then he stepped closer, not enough to touch, just enough to steal the oxygen around me. "Stay close to me tonight, Claire," he said, "and whatever happens," his eyes darkened slightly, "don't take that ring off." The first thing I learned about powerful men was that they never ask twice. Damien Moretti held my gaze for another second after warning me not to remove the ring. Then someone approached him from behind, speaking rapid Italian under their breath. I did not understand the words, but I understood the tension immediately. The man looked nervous. Damien did not. That somehow made it worse. He listened without reacting, whiskey glass still balanced calmly in his hand, while rain crawled down the skyscraper windows behind him like silver veins. Then his eyes returned to me. "Smile," he said quietly. "People are watching." My cheeks tightened automatically. It felt less like a request and more like survival instinct. Damien extended his arm. I hesitated for half a heartbeat before placing my hand against his sleeve. The fabric was smooth and cool beneath my fingertips. Expensive. Everything about him felt expensive, dangerous, in the kind of way ordinary girls were supposed to avoid. The ballroom doors opened at the far end of the penthouse, revealing another flood of wealthy guests stepping inside from private elevators. Diamonds flashed beneath chandelier light. Waiters carried trays of champagne through clouds of perfume and soft jazz music. But underneath all of it, I sensed something else moving quietly through the room. Calculation. Eyes lingering too long. Men measuring each other with fake smiles and practiced handshakes. Damien guided me forward slowly. Every person we passed greeted him differently. Some nodded respectfully. Some looked terrified to even hold eye contact. One older man kissed my hand and congratulated Damien in a voice so tense it sounded rehearsed. "You kept your marriage secret from all of us," he said carefully. Damien's hand settled against the small of my back, warm, steady, possessive enough to make my pulse skip. "I prefer privacy," he replied. The older man laughed too quickly. "Of course you do." I looked up at Damien instinctively. His expression never changed. Calm, gray eyes, relaxed posture. But I noticed something then. Every security guard in the room watched him constantly, not casually, carefully, like the entire night balanced on whether Damien Moretti stayed breathing until sunrise. We stopped near the center of the ballroom where a string quartet played beneath gold ceiling lights. Champagne bubbles fizzed softly around us. Somewhere below, Manhattan traffic groaned through the rain. Damien leaned slightly toward me, close enough for only me to hear him. "You are doing well. I still feel insane." One corner of his mouth almost moved. "Good. That means you still have survival instincts." Before I could answer, another voice interrupted. "Damien." The room shifted subtly. I felt it before I even turned around. Conversations quieted nearby. A tall man approached through the crowd, wearing a midnight blue suit and a smile too sharp to be genuine. Dark blonde hair, cold eyes, the kind of handsome that looked rehearsed in mirrors. Beside me, Damien's posture changed, almost invisibly. Not fear. Readiness. "Victor," Damien said evenly, "you are late. Traffic." Victor's gaze slid toward me slowly, assessing, curious. And this must be the mysterious wife. I forced myself not to step backward. "Claire." He took my hand gently, but his smile never reached his eyes. "You certainly appeared suddenly. Life is full of surprises, Damien answered before I could speak. Victor chuckled softly. Apparently, the silence stretched too long afterward. I could feel something unspoken moving between the two men like a wire pulled too tight. Rivalry, maybe. History, definitely. Then Victor looked directly at the diamond ring on my finger. Beautiful stone, he said. I am surprised. Damien finally found someone worth wearing it. Damien's hand tightened slightly against my back. Careful, just one word. Quiet, controlled. But the temperature around us seemed to drop instantly. Victor raised both hands in mock surrender. Relax. I am complimenting your wife. Wife. The word hit strangely this time. Too intimate. Too believable. Victor gave me one final smile before disappearing back into the crowd. The second he left, I released a breath I did not realize I had been holding. Who was that? I whispered. Damien took another slow sip of whiskey. Someone who enjoys testing boundaries. And did I pass? His gray eyes met mine again. For one dangerous second, the noise of the ballroom faded completely. Not everyone survives being near me, Claire. My heartbeat stumbled hard against my ribs. That is not exactly comforting. It was not meant to be. A waiter appeared beside us carrying fresh champagne. Damien traded his whiskey glass for a crystal flute before handing me the other. His fingers brushed mine briefly. Warm skin, steady hands, controlled strength. Listen carefully, he said softly without looking at me. In exactly 2 minutes, a man near the west balcony is going to approach us. He will pretend to congratulate me. My stomach tightened instantly. Pretend? Yes. Damien glanced toward the rain-covered skyline beyond the glass walls, and when he does, his voice lowered further. You stay close to me, no matter what happens. There are moments when your instinct starts screaming before your mind understands why. I tightened my grip around the champagne flute while Damien calmly watched the west balcony through the reflection in the glass walls. Rain continued sliding down Manhattan in silver ribbons 30 stories below us. The string quartet played something soft and expensive behind the low hum of political laughter and crystal glasses. Nobody looking at this room would have guessed how tense it really was. But I felt it now, in the silence between conversations, in the way security guards shifted slightly closer to Damien every few minutes, in the way certain men kept checking their watches like they were waiting for something. You still have time to tell me what is happening, I whispered carefully. Damien's eyes stayed on the crowd. The less you know, the safer you are. That answer is becoming very annoying. This time I definitely caught the faintest trace of amusement near his mouth. Tiny. Gone almost immediately. Good, he murmured. You are less nervous when you are irritated. Before I could respond, the ballroom doors opened again. Every head near the entrance turned instinctively. A man stepped inside, surrounded by 3 others in dark suits. Mid-40s maybe, silver hair, sharp black tuxedo. The kind of polished confidence that belonged to men who controlled entire rooms without raising their voices. Damien's expression hardened slightly. That is him. The silver-haired man crossed the ballroom slowly, greeting guests along the way like a politician during election season. But his eyes stayed locked on Damien the entire time. Cold, focused, measuring. Who is he? I asked quietly. Leon Viscari. Damien swirled the champagne once inside his glass. And tonight he is pretending we are friends. My throat tightened. Pretending? Leon enjoys smiling before negotiations. Negotiations about what? Damien finally looked directly at me again. Storm gray eyes, calm enough to hide something dangerous underneath. Power. The answer settled heavily in my chest. Leon reached us seconds later with a smile polished enough for television cameras. Damien. His voice carried warmth that felt practiced instead of genuine. The 2 men shook hands firmly. Neither blinked first. You disappeared for months, Leon continued, then suddenly returned with a wife. His gaze shifted toward me smoothly. I was beginning to think you hated romance. Damien's hand settled against my waist this time, stronger than before, protective enough that heat rushed unexpectedly into my face. Claire prefers privacy, he replied calmly. Leon smiled at me politely. A wise woman. Something about him unsettled me instantly. Not because he looked threatening, worse, because he looked charming, controlled, like someone who had spent years learning how to hide sharp edges beneath expensive suits and perfect manners. You look familiar, Leon said thoughtfully. Have we met before? No, Damien answered before I could speak. Leon's smile widened slightly. Protective already. Interesting. The tension between them stretched thin as wire. Nearby conversations softened subtly again. People were listening without appearing obvious about it. Watching. Waiting. Leon lifted a champagne glass from a passing tray. Well, he said smoothly, to unexpected marriages. Damien raised his own glass without smiling. To loyalty. The word landed differently, heavier. Leon noticed too. I saw it in the slight pause before he drank. Silence followed, thick and uncomfortable. Then Leon leaned closer toward Damien slightly. Your timing surprised me. Damien's voice stayed even. I rarely disappoint. No, Leon agreed quietly. You usually do the opposite. My pulse quickened. I still did not understand what game was unfolding around me, but I knew enough to recognize a warning when I heard one. Leon glanced at me one last time before stepping backward. Enjoy your evening, Claire. Then he disappeared into the crowd again. The second he was gone, I released a breath slowly. I officially hate everyone in this building. Damien looked down at me briefly. That is probably wise. Was that supposed to scare me? No. He finished the champagne in one calm swallow. If I wanted to scare you, Claire, you would know. A chill moved down my spine despite the warmth of the ballroom. Somewhere near the orchestra stage, laughter erupted loudly, fake, forced, like everyone here was performing versions of themselves they no longer remembered how to remove. Damien handed his empty glass to a passing waiter. Dance with me. I blinked. What? Now? Before I could argue, his hand closed carefully around mine. Warm fingers. Steady grip. The giant diamond ring flashed beneath chandelier light as he guided me toward the center of the ballroom. Every eye seemed to follow us instantly. The orchestra shifted into a slower song. Elegant, intimate, dangerous, in a completely different way. I do not know how to dance to whatever this billionaire vampire music is, I muttered under my breath. Damien's hand slid gently to my waist while pulling me closer. Just follow me. The room blurred slightly once we started moving, not because of the dance, because Damien moved with complete confidence, like a man who controlled every inch of space around him naturally. His body stayed relaxed, focused, calm beneath the gold ballroom lights, while rain battered the city outside. Everyone is staring, I whispered. Good. That is your answer for everything. Usually 'cause it works. I looked up at him accidentally then. Big mistake. His face was too close. Sharp jawline softened slightly by warm chandelier light. Gray eyes unreadable and steady against mine. Beautiful in the kind of way that felt unfair. Dangerous in the kind of way that felt permanent. You are thinking too much, he said quietly. I am standing in a ballroom, pretending to be married to a man who talks like he owns countries. Thinking seems reasonable. One slow breath escaped him that almost sounded like laughter. Almost. Then suddenly his expression changed. Small. Instant. But enough to tighten every nerve inside me. Damien's gaze shifted over my shoulder toward the balcony entrance again. His arm tightened around my waist protectively. Do not react, he said softly. But The man near the window, my heartbeat stopped completely. He has been watching you for the last 10 minutes. The difference between fear and instinct is that instinct whispers before fear learns your name. My body stayed perfectly still against Damien while the orchestra continued playing around us, but every muscle inside me tightened painfully. I did not turn toward the balcony window. I did not look for the man Damien mentioned. I suddenly understood this world enough to know that obvious reactions could become dangerous. Damien guided me slowly across the ballroom floor, one hand steady at my waist while rain painted silver shadows across the towering glass windows behind him. "Keep smiling," he said quietly. "You say that a lot. Because you look terrified. Maybe because strange men keep watching me tonight." His thumb shifted once against the fabric of my dress. Small movement, somehow reassuring. "They are not watching you," he murmured. "They are watching me through you." The answer sent cold pressure through my chest. Around us, wealthy strangers continued pretending this was a normal gala. Crystal glasses clinked softly. Politicians laughed too loudly beside marble columns. Women in designer gowns whispered behind manicured hands, while security guards monitored every corner of the penthouse like silent statues. But underneath the music and expensive perfume, tension moved through the room like electricity before a storm. Damien suddenly turned us smoothly, positioning my back toward the ballroom center. Protective. Intentional. His gaze lifted over my shoulder briefly, calculating. "What does he look like?" I whispered. "Gray suit, near the balcony entrance." I swallowed carefully. "And why is he staring at me?" "Because he is trying to decide whether you are real." My heartbeat stumbled. "Meaning?" Damien's jaw tightened slightly. "Meaning my enemies know I do not trust easily." His eyes lowered to the ring on my hand. "A wife changes things." Before I could answer, the music slowed to an ending around us. Applause scattered politely through the ballroom. Damien did not release me immediately. His hand remained against my waist, 1 second longer than necessary. Warm, possessive, dangerous for reasons I did not want to examine too closely. Then his phone vibrated once inside his jacket pocket. He checked the screen briefly. Something in his expression darkened. "We are leaving the ballroom for 10 minutes. "What?" "Smile," he reminded softly. "And, stay close again. Stay close." Like the words meant more than physical distance. Damien guided me through the crowd toward a quieter hallway, lined with black and white photographs of old Manhattan. The noise from the gala softened behind us until only distant music and rainfall remained. I exhaled shakily the second we were alone. "You still have not explained anything." Damien loosened his tie slightly with one hand while scanning the hallway automatically. "That is intentional. You hired me to play your wife, not become a hostage." His eyes lifted sharply to mine. "You are not a hostage. Then why does this feel like I need permission to breathe?" Silence stretched between us, heavy, complicated. Damien stepped closer, slowly lowering his voice. "Because tonight is unstable. That is not an answer. It is the only one you are getting right now." Frustration flared hot in my chest. I should leave. The words came out stronger than I expected. Damien went completely still, not angry, worse, controlled. No, just one word, calm. Absolute. My pulse quickened immediately. "You do not get to decide that." "Actually," he said quietly, "tonight I do." Something dangerous shifted beneath the calmness in his voice then. Not cruelty, fear. The realization unsettled me more than shouting would have. Before I could respond, hurried footsteps approached from the opposite hallway. A younger man in a black suit appeared, carrying an earpiece and tablet. Late 20s, maybe. Sharp features, alert eyes. Boss, he said quickly. Leon just moved 3 of his men toward the west elevators. Damien's expression hardened instantly. How many? At least 4 additional security outside now. The younger man glanced toward me, briefly, before lowering his voice further. And someone ran facial recognition on Claire Bennett 20 minutes ago. My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. What? Damien's eyes snapped toward the younger man coldly. Who accessed it? Unknown source. Silence crashed down around us. Rain hammered harder against the penthouse windows, somewhere beyond the hallway walls. Damien looked at me, slowly after that. Really looked at me. Not like a stranger anymore. Like someone calculating risk. You ran a background check on me? I asked quietly. Before tonight, he answered evenly. Not during. That does not make me feel better. The younger man shifted uncomfortably beside us. Should I move her downstairs? Her. Not Claire. Not Miss Bennett. Her. Like I was suddenly an object inside a security operation. Damien considered something silently for 2 long seconds. Then he looked directly at me again. Gray eyes, steady and unreadable beneath the gold hallway lights. No, he said quietly. She stays with me. The younger man nodded once and disappeared back toward the ballroom. The second he was gone, I stepped backward from Damien instinctively. Okay. No. Absolutely not. Damien watched me carefully. Claire, people are searching my face now. Security teams are discussing me like I accidentally joined the Secret Service. I am a piano player from Brooklyn. Lower your voice. Do not tell me what to do. His jaw tightened again. I am trying to keep you safe. From what? Finally, something cracked slightly inside his expression. Exhaustion, maybe. Or truth pressing too hard against restraint. Damien stepped closer, carefully. From the fact that someone in that ballroom believes you matter to me now. My breath caught completely. The hallway suddenly felt too quiet, too small. And do I whispered before I could stop myself. Damien looked down at me for one long, dangerous second, while thunder rolled softly beyond the glass skyline outside. Then, his eyes dropped slowly to the ring still wrapped around my finger. That, he said quietly, is becoming the problem. People think fear arrives like an explosion, but sometimes it arrives quietly, wearing a tailored suit and your name on somebody else's screen. I stared at Damien while rain trembled against the penthouse windows beyond the hallway. My heartbeat felt uneven now. Too loud inside my chest, too aware of the fact that powerful strangers were suddenly searching for information about a woman who had spent most of her life being invisible. Damien remained perfectly calm in front of me. That calmness unsettled me more than panic would have. I should go home, I said carefully. Now. His expression did not move. No, you do not own me. I know. Then stop acting like I belong here. His gray eyes lowered briefly to the ring on my hand again. That ring says otherwise tonight. Frustration flared hot through my exhaustion. This was supposed to be one evening. I am aware. Then why does this suddenly feel permanent? Silence settled between us again. Heavy, dangerous. Somewhere down the hallway, soft jazz music drifted faintly from the ballroom while thunder rolled beyond Manhattan's skyline. Damien stepped closer, slowly, controlled, measured. Like every movement he made had already been calculated 3 steps ahead. Claire, he said quietly, look at me. I hated that my body obeyed instantly. I need you to understand something. His voice dropped lower. The second people believed you mattered to me, your life changed. Cold spread slowly through my stomach. That is insane, yes. No hesitation, no denial, just truth. And unfortunately, he continued softly, truth does not care whether either of us likes it. I looked away first, toward the rain-streaked windows at the end of the hallway, toward the city that suddenly felt impossibly far away from me even though it sat right beneath this tower. 24 hours ago, my biggest problem had been overdue rent and whether my sister could keep her nursing textbooks after dropping out for the semester. Now, strangers in designer suits were quietly discussing my safety, like I had wandered into the wrong life by mistake. I never should have come here, I whispered. Damien's jaw tightened slightly. Probably not. Something about the honesty in that answer hurt unexpectedly. Before I could respond, voices echoed from the ballroom entrance again. Fast footsteps approached. Damien immediately shifted closer to me instinctively, positioning himself slightly between me and the hallway opening, protective. The younger man from earlier appeared again, tension visible across his face this time. Boss. Damien's eyes sharpened. What happened? There was a problem downstairs. The younger man glanced briefly toward me before continuing carefully. One of Leon's associates tried accessing the guest exit records. My stomach dropped instantly. Damien stayed still. Too still. For her? We believe so. The hallway suddenly felt colder. I crossed my arms tightly against myself. Okay. No, somebody needs to explain why this is happening. The younger man looked uncomfortable. Damien did not. Go back downstairs, Damien ordered quietly. Double security at the elevators. Already done. And Matteo, watching the west entrance personally. Damien nodded once. Good. The younger man disappeared again, without another word. Silence returned heavily after he left. I stared at Damien in disbelief. This cannot possibly be normal. It is not. Then why are you acting calm? Finally something flickered behind his eyes. Exhaustion, maybe. Or experience. Because panic gets people hurt. His answer landed harder than I expected. I rubbed my cold fingers against the diamond ring, unconsciously. The stone flashed beneath the hallway lights. Too bright, too expensive, too dangerous now. Take it off, I muttered quietly. Damien's expression changed instantly. No, it is fake anyway. Claire, I do not want it. I started pulling the ring from my finger. Damien caught my wrist, gently, but immediately. Warm hand, firm grip. Not painful, just absolute. My breath caught sharply. Do not remove it, he said quietly. Why? For one long second he just looked at me, gray eyes steady against mine while rain hammered softly outside. Because right now, he said carefully, that ring is the only thing keeping certain people from testing whether you matter to me. Fear moved slowly down my spine after that. Real fear this time. Not nervousness, not confusion. Understanding. I stopped trying to pull the ring off. Damien released my wrist immediately once he felt me relax, controlled even then. I do not understand this world, I whispered. You should not have to. The answer came softer than anything he had said to me all night, unexpectedly human. Before I could respond, the ballroom lights suddenly dimmed slightly behind us. Music softened. Applause scattered through the crowd. Damien's phone vibrated again inside his jacket. He checked the screen once, and his entire expression hardened. Every trace of softness disappeared instantly. We are leaving. My stomach tightened. Leaving where? Home. The word hit strangely. Intimate, in the worst possible way. I am not going home with you. Damien slipped the phone back into his pocket, calmly. Tonight, he said quietly, you are. The terrifying thing about powerful men is how calmly they change your life forever. I am not going anywhere with you, I repeated, but my voice sounded weaker now. Not because I was afraid of Damien, because part of me already understood I was no longer in control of tonight. Damien looked down at me steadily beneath the gold hallway lights, while thunder rolled softly outside the penthouse windows. You can argue with me in the car, he said quietly. I am not getting into your car. You are safer with me than alone right now. You keep saying that like I am supposed to trust you. Something flickered across his expression then. Fast. Almost invisible. No, he admitted softly. I expect you to fear me a little. The honesty hit harder than manipulation would have. Before I could answer, Damien's phone buzzed again. He listened silently for several seconds. After answering, his gray eyes never leaving mine. How many? He asked, calmly. Silence. No, nobody leaves through the front entrance. Another pause. Then his jaw tightened slightly. Understood. He ended the call, without another word. My stomach twisted painfully. What happened? Damien slipped the phone into his pocket, slowly. Plans changed. That is not an answer. It is the only one you are getting until we leave this building. Frustration surged through me again. Stop talking to me like I am one of your employees. His gaze sharpened instantly. Claire, no. You hired me for one night. That is all. And tonight became complicated. That is not my fault. I know. The answer came immediately, calm, certain, somehow worse. Damien stepped closer, carefully, lowering his voice. Listen to me very carefully now. Every instinct inside me tight. You are exhausted, overwhelmed, angry. I understand that. His eyes dropped briefly toward the diamond ring still wrapped around my finger. But if you walk out of this building alone tonight, people will follow you. Cold fear slid slowly down my spine again. Why? Because somebody wants leverage. Against you? Yes. My throat tightened painfully. This is insane. Yes. Again, with the honesty. No pretending. No fake comfort. Just brutal truth, delivered quietly beneath chandelier light, while Manhattan drowned in rain outside. Damien extended his hand toward me, slowly. Come with me. I stared at his hand for 2 long seconds. Strong fingers. Steady. Patient. Not forcing. Waiting. Somewhere behind us, applause echoed faintly through the ballroom again. The gala continued like nothing dangerous existed, beneath all the wealth and music and expensive smiles. But I knew better now. This building felt like a chessboard, where everyone already understood the rules except me. What happens if I say no? I whispered. Damien's expression did not change. I carry you out emotionally instead of physically. Despite everything, a shocked breath almost escaped me. That was supposed to be reassuring. One corner of his mouth moved slightly. No. God help me. I almost smiled back. The realization terrified me more than the security teams downstairs. Damien lowered his hand slowly when I still did not take it. Your sister's eviction notice was delivered this morning at 9:15, he said quietly. My heartbeat stopped completely. What? Your landlord has already scheduled new tenants for the apartment next week. Ice flooded through my body instantly. How do you know that? Because before I brought you into this world tonight, I made sure I understood yours. Anger flashed hot through the fear. You investigated my family. I protected myself by invading my life. Damien remained infuriatingly calm. You accepted money from strangers to impersonate the wife of a man you had never met. You were already in danger before you walked into this building. The words hit too close to truth. I hated that. You do not get to judge me. I am not judging you. His voice softened slightly. I am trying to understand why a woman like you was desperate enough to say yes. Silence stretched painfully after that. Rain hammered harder against the windows somewhere above us. I looked away first, because suddenly my eyes burned unexpectedly. Embarrassing. Weak. I crossed my arms tighter around myself. My father left when I was 16, I said quietly. My mother died 3 years later. Damien said nothing, just listened. I raised my sister, worked every terrible job possible. Piano bars, hotel lounges, weddings, funeral receptions. My laugh sounded hollow. Turns out grief pays surprisingly well if you can play softly enough. His eyes stayed fixed on me, steady, focused, not pitying. Somehow that made continuing easier. $5,000 fixes a lot of problems when you spend your whole life drowning in small ones. Damien went still after that, really still. Then, slowly, carefully, he removed his suit jacket and draped it around my shoulders before I could protest. Warm fabric, faint scent of cedar wood and rain. expensive enough that I instantly felt ridiculous wearing it. Damien, you are cold. I am fine. No, he said quietly. You are pretending to be. The words settled, painfully deep, somewhere inside my chest. Before I could answer, the hallway elevator chimed softly behind us. Both of us turned instantly. 2 additional security men stepped out first, scanning the corridor carefully before nodding once toward Damien. Then a familiar voice echoed lightly from the elevator entrance. Leaving so early? Leon Vascari stepped into the hallway, smiling politely, hands resting casually in his pockets. But his eyes landed directly on me first. Cold, interested, calculating. That is unfortunate, he said softly. I was just beginning to like your wife. Damien moved slightly closer to me immediately, protective enough that even Leon noticed. And for the very first time that night, the older man's smile faded completely. You can learn a lot about a man by watching what happens when somebody threatens what he considers his. The hallway suddenly felt smaller, with Leon Vascari standing near the elevator beneath soft gold lighting and rain whispering against the skyscraper windows beyond us. His smile had disappeared completely now. So, the warmth from Damien's jacket still rested around my shoulders, but the air between the 2 men felt cold enough to freeze glass. Leon, Damien said evenly. You should still be entertaining your guests. Leon's eyes stayed on me. I was trying. His voice remained smooth, calm, dangerous, in the same polished way, expensive. Knives looked harmless until sunlight hit the blade correctly. Claire and I were becoming friends. Damien stepped slightly in front of me. Tiny movement. Completely intentional. No, he said quietly. You were not. Silence followed. Heavy. Controlled. The security men near the elevator shifted subtly, attention sharpening without either man raising their voice. Leon noticed the movement and smiled faintly again. Relax, he murmured. I came to congratulate you. You already did. And yet your wife still looks frightened. My pulse tightened instantly. Damien did not even blink. That concerns you? Everything connected to you concerns me. The words landed carefully between them like chess pieces sliding across marble. I suddenly understood something terrifying then. These men had known each other for years, maybe decades. This was not random hostility. It was history, wearing expensive suits and pretending to be civilized. Leon finally looked directly at me again. You should know, he said softly. Damien does not usually keep people close. Damien's voice hardened slightly. Enough. But Leon continued anyway. Especially not innocent people. The word innocent made something uncomfortable move through Damien's expression, gone almost instantly. We are leaving now, Damien said quietly. Leon tilted his head slightly. Taking her home. Already? Yes. Interesting choice. Silence stretched again. Then Leon smiled one final time. Good night, Claire. I did not answer. Mostly because I could not tell whether the man was warning me or threatening me. Damien guided me toward the elevator immediately after Leon stepped aside. His hand rested lightly against my back again. Protective. Possessive. I no longer knew the difference. The elevator doors closed behind us with soft metallic silence. Finally, I exhaled shakily. That man hates you. Damien stared ahead at the descending floor numbers. Yes. Why? Because I am still alive. The answer chilled me instantly. The elevator descended in silence after that, while rain streaked across the glass walls overlooking Manhattan. Security men surrounded us quietly. Nobody spoke. Nobody relaxed. I rubbed my fingers together nervously inside Damien's oversized jacket sleeves. The diamond ring still flashed against my hand beneath the elevator lights. Too real, too heavy. Where are we going exactly? I asked softly. My house. That answer still sounds insane. Damien glanced down at me briefly. You keep saying that. Because this entire night feels like I accidentally walked into somebody else's life. His eyes held mine for one dangerous second. Maybe you did. The elevator doors opened directly into a private underground garage lined with black SUVs and polished concrete floors. Rain echoed faintly overhead somewhere beyond the structure. Men in dark suits moved quickly between vehicles, speaking low Italian into earpieces. Everything felt organized, efficient, prepared for situations normal people never imagined existed. Damien guided me toward the largest SUV waiting near the exit ramp. Matte black, armored looking, the kind of vehicle presidents probably borrowed during emergencies. One of the security men opened the rear passenger door immediately. After you, Mrs. Moretti. The fake title hit differently now, sharper somehow. Damien slid into the seat beside me moments later while 2 additional vehicles started behind us. The second the doors closed, the outside world disappeared almost completely. Silence. Leather seats. Dim lighting. The faint scent of cedar wood and rain lingering from Damien beside me. Manhattan blurred outside the tinted windows while the convoy pulled onto wet midnight streets. I folded my arms tightly. You realize this still feels like kidnapping. Damien loosened his tie slowly beside me. If it were kidnapping, your phone would already be gone. Comforting. One corner of his mouth almost moved again. Tiny. Brief. You are unusually calm for someone trapped in a Mafia convoy. I looked out at the rain-covered city lights passing outside. I think my brain gave up 3 hours ago. Silence settled between us again after that. Not uncomfortable exactly. Just heavy, with too many things neither of us understood yet. Damien finally leaned back against the leather seat with a quiet exhale. Exhaustion flickered across his face, for the first time all night. Real exhaustion, not physical. Something deeper. How long have you been doing this? I asked before I could stop myself. His eyes shifted toward me carefully. Doing what? Living like everyone is waiting for war. He watched me quietly for several seconds before answering, long enough to stop remembering the difference between caution and habit. The honesty surprised me again. I looked away quickly. Dangerous men were easier to fear when they acted cruel instead of tired. The SUV slowed suddenly beneath towering iron gates, surrounded by stone walls and security lights. Beyond them, a massive estate emerged through the rain-dark trees overlooking the Hudson River. Warm golden windows glowed against the storm like something from another century. Not a house, a fortress, pretending to be beautiful. My breath caught softly. That is your home. Damien followed my gaze through the rain-streaked glass. Yes. The gates opened slowly before us. Silent, automatic, final. And for the first time that night, real fear settled fully into my chest when I realized something horrible. I did not know how long Damien Moretti planned to keep me there. Some houses are built to feel welcoming. Damien Moretti's house was built to remind the world nobody entered without permission. The black SUV rolled slowly through the massive iron gates while rain swept across the windshield in silver waves. My heartbeat felt strangely quiet now. Maybe because fear had exhausted itself hours ago. Maybe because my brain still refused to accept this night was real. The estate stretched across the cliffs, overlooking the Hudson like something hidden from ordinary people on purpose. Stone walls, endless dark windows glowing gold against the storm. Private security, moving beneath umbrellas near the entrance. Everything about the property whispered the same message clearly. Untouchable. The SUV stopped beneath a covered driveway lined with marble pillars. One of Damien's men opened the door immediately. Cold, rain-scented air drifted inside. Welcome home, boss. Home, again with that word. Damien stepped out first, before turning slightly toward me. Careful. I stared at his extended hand for 1 second before finally taking it. Warm fingers closed around mine gently while I stepped onto the wet stone driveway in borrowed heels and a fake wedding ring worth more than my entire life. Somewhere in Brooklyn, my apartment ceiling still leaked, every time it rained. Here, even the storm sounded expensive. The front doors opened before we reached them. An older woman in a dark navy dress waited inside, beneath soft chandelier light. Silver hair neatly pinned back, calm eyes, the kind of graceful presence that made the enormous mansion feel suddenly less cold. "You are late," she said calmly to Damien, not nervous, not intimidated. Damien removed his tie slowly while stepping inside. Unexpected complications. The woman's eyes moved toward me then, gentle, curious. And this must be Claire. I blinked in surprise. Damien was already removing the jacket from my shoulders carefully before handing it to one of the staff members nearby. "Claire," he said quietly, "this is Mrs. Ricci." The woman smiled faintly. "I have known Damien since he was 13, and impossible to control." Damien sighed softly. "You are enjoying this too much." "Very much." Despite everything, warmth flickered briefly through the room for the first time all night. Real warmth. Human. Mrs. Ricci stepped closer toward me kindly. "You look exhausted, sweetheart." Something about the softness in her voice almost hurt, unexpectedly. I had spent the entire night surrounded by calculated conversations and dangerous men. Kindness suddenly felt disorienting. "I am okay," I answered automatically. Mrs. Ricci gave me a knowing look. "That means no." Damien loosened the top button of his dress shirt quietly beside me. His exhaustion looked heavier now beneath the mansion lights, more visible somehow. "Prepare the East guest suite," he told her calmly. "And, have someone bring dinner upstairs." Upstairs. My stomach tightened instantly again. "Wait." Both of them looked at me. "I am staying here?" Damien's gray eyes remained calm. "Tonight, yes." "For how long?" Silence. Tiny. But enough. "Damien." My voice came out sharper this time. "For how long?" He studied me for one long second before answering carefully. "Until I know the situation outside is stable." "That is not a timeline." "It is the truth." Frustration flashed through me instantly. "You cannot just decide my life for me." Something complicated moved behind his eyes then. Not anger. Regret, maybe. "Claire." "No." I stepped backward slightly. "You do not get to trap me in some billionaire prison because your enemies suddenly noticed me." The room went completely silent after that. Even the staff nearby stopped moving. Mrs. Ricci glanced toward Damien, carefully, waiting. Damien exhaled once, slowly, before speaking. "Everybody leave us." The room emptied almost immediately after that. Quiet footsteps, closing doors. Then, suddenly, it was just me and Damien, standing beneath cathedral ceilings, while rain hammered softly against the giant windows overlooking the river. He looked tired now, truly tired. The kind of exhaustion no amount of sleep fixes. "You think I want this?" he asked quietly. "I think you are used to controlling everything." "Not everything." His eyes dropped briefly toward me. Dangerous mistake, because suddenly the silence between us felt too personal. "You barely know me," I whispered. "Exactly." The answer surprised me. Damien walked toward the massive fireplace slowly, loosening his cufflinks with practiced movements. "If this were only about me," he said quietly, "I would have let you leave hours ago." I folded my arms tightly. "Then what is it about?" He stared into the fire for a moment before answering. "Patterns." "That sounds terrifying." One corner of his mouth almost moved again. "Probably because it is." He removed his watch carefully and placed it on the marble table beside the fireplace. Expensive, silver, heavy, precise, like everything else about him. "Men like Leon look for weaknesses," he continued quietly. "Pressure points. Anything unexpected." His eyes lifted toward me again. "And tonight," silence stretched heavily. "Tonight, you became one." The words settled deep in my chest. I hated how calm he sounded saying them. like danger was simply weather he learned to live inside years ago. "I never asked for any of this," I whispered. "I know." "Then why does it feel like I am paying for it?" Damien went still after that. Then slowly, carefully, he crossed the room toward me again, until only inches separated us beneath the warm mansion lights. His voice lowered, softer now, more dangerous because of it. "Because somebody looked at you tonight," he said quietly, "and realized I cared whether you walked out alive." My breath caught completely. Damien's gaze held mine 1 second too long before he stepped back again. "That," he said softly, "is what changed everything. The worst part about dangerous men is not the fear they create. It is how safe they make you feel 5 minutes before ruining your ability to think clearly." I stood frozen beneath the massive chandelier while Damien's words settled heavily inside my chest. "Somebody realized I cared whether you walked out alive." The sentence repeated itself over and over in my mind, like thunder rolling through empty rooms. Damien looked away first, toward the rain-covered windows, overlooking the Hudson River, toward the darkness outside where security lights cut through the storm in sharp white lines. I suddenly noticed how quiet the mansion felt compared to the gala. No orchestra, no forced laughter, no fake conversations, hiding tension underneath. Just rain, firelight, and a man standing too close to me while pretending not to care that he already changed my life. "You barely know me," I whispered again. Damien rested one hand against the marble fireplace slowly. "That has not stopped me before. That is somehow not comforting." A tired breath escaped him that almost sounded like a laugh. Almost. The fire reflected gold across his face now, softening the hard lines that had looked almost untouchable at the gala. Without the crowded ballroom and expensive performance surrounding him, Damien suddenly looked less like a king and more like a man carrying too much weight for too many years. That realization unsettled me in ways fear never could. "You should sleep," he said quietly after a moment. "I do not think I can. You will eventually. You sound experienced." His eyes shifted toward me carefully. "Insomnia becomes familiar in my world." Silence settled again, softer this time. Somewhere deeper inside the mansion, a grandfather clock chimed quietly. Midnight. I looked down at the enormous diamond still wrapped around my finger. The stone glittered against firelight, like something stolen from another universe. "I should take this off now," I murmured. Damien's expression changed instantly. Not harsh, just focused. "No. The gala's over." "Still no. You really enjoy telling me what to do. Only when you are about to do something reckless. Frustration should have returned then." Instead, something dangerously close to amusement flickered through me. God help me. I was adapting to him already. I walked slowly toward the towering windows overlooking the river, wrapping my arms around myself against the lingering cold still trapped inside my body. Rain blurred the distant Manhattan skyline into scattered gold smudges across the darkness. Beautiful, lonely. Damien stayed near the fireplace behind me, quiet, giving me space without fully stepping away. "Do you ever leave this place?" I asked softly. "Frequently." That was not what I meant. Silence. Then, finally, "Not really." I turned slightly toward him. "Why?" Damien looked at the fire instead of me. "Because, outside this house, everyone wants something." The answer landed unexpectedly hard. And inside, his eyes lifted slowly to mine again. "Inside," he said quietly, "they usually just want honesty." Something tightened painfully in my chest. After that, I understood loneliness. I understood what happened when people only approached you because they needed something from you. Rent money, emotional support, survival. Maybe that was why Damien unsettled me so deeply. Because underneath the expensive suits and terrifying reputation, I recognized exhaustion I had spent years hiding in myself. A soft knock interrupted the silence. Mrs. Ricci entered carrying a silver tray with soup, tea, and fresh bread. Warm steam curled gently through the room. "You both look terrible," she announced calmly. Damien sighed quietly. "Good evening to you too." She ignored him completely while setting the tray near the fireplace. "Claire, eat something before you collapse. I am okay. That sentence should be illegal at this point." I blinked in surprise before laughing softly, despite myself. Mrs. Ricci smiled faintly. "There. Much better." Damien watched the interaction silently from across the room. Something unreadable moved behind his gray eyes again. "You are smiling," he observed quietly. I looked at him carefully. Apparently, I still remember how the answer hit something inside him, visibly. Tiny, fast, but real. Mrs. Ricci noticed too, because her expression softened for one brief second before she moved toward the door again. "The E-suite is ready," she informed Damien calmly. Then she paused, near me. "And sweetheart?" "Yes." Her eyes flicked once toward Damien before returning to me knowingly. "He looks frightening when he cares about somebody. Do not let that confuse you." Then she disappeared before either of us could answer. Silence crashed into the room. Afterward, I stared at the closed door in shock. Damien rubbed one hand slowly across the back of his neck. "Ignore her." "Can I?" "Preferably. I should have stepped away then. Should have remembered who he was, what this world was. But exhaustion and firelight and rain have dangerous ways of making lonely people honest." "You know what scares me most about tonight?" I asked quietly. Damien watched me carefully. "What?" I swallowed hard before answering. "Not your enemies." His expression sharpened slightly. "Then what?" My heartbeat stumbled painfully against my ribs. "The fact that part of me feels safer standing here with you than anywhere else." The room went completely still after that. Firelight flickered softly across Damien's face, while thunder rolled beyond the river outside. He looked at me for one long, dangerous second. Then slowly, carefully, he crossed the room until only inches separated us again. Close enough that I could smell cedarwood and rain on his skin. Close enough that breathing suddenly felt complicated. Damien lowered his voice, almost to a whisper. "Claire." My name sounded different when he said it softly. Worse, more dangerous. His eyes dropped briefly toward my mouth before returning immediately to my eyes again. Controlled. Always controlled. "That," he said quietly, "is exactly what should scare you."